Hey, this is Pamela Schneider. I'm the retail editor for Blue Book Services, and this is the Produce Reporter Week in Review. I have Greg Johnson, our media guy, anyway. I
I
have
develop media.
you developed media, director of media development for Blue Book Services, and we are talking about the top stories this week for the Produce Reporter. And as it has been since pretty much April, late April, we've got food boxes. But I think there were some things to be read out of the newest food box announcement. So tell us what's going on, and I'm going to tell you what I think of it.
Well, the biggest piece of news was that the Trump administration announced an additional $1 billion this year to the program. So that's on top of what has already been pledged, and it's already pledged through the end of the year. And the next round is supposed to start September 1st. And the change for September 1st is that they're prioritizing combo boxes, which is produce, meat, and dairy in a 30 to 40 pound box. So that was the first bit of news. And then the second bit of news that we got this week is they named some of the companies that are the first recipients. And you like to read something into that.
I do like to read something into that. You mentioned that they are prioritizing combo boxes. At the beginning of the RFP, it was combo boxes only. And then they said, oh, wait, no, we will take the separated boxes. And then we see this list, and if you look at the list, there's two things that jumped out to me, just jumped out right away. Is one of them is every single one that got a contract is a combo box. That certainly changes the dynamics, and they, while they did say that they will allow some non-mixed boxes, the fact that we're seeing the first rollout is all combo boxes says something. And of course, this program evolves and changes and grows and refines itself based on how it works. And so if this whole combo box thing doesn't work, we could see it go back to separated boxes in a couple of weeks. We don't know.
Well, being flexible is a positive, not a negative.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I just thought it was, interesting that they changed their stance on the combo box only thing, but then only awarded combo boxes.
Well, that's the first round.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds like they're prioritizing that. And then as they found out in the summer program, that there are certain areas of the country that aren't getting enough, and they need to figure out a way to reach those. And so if I was running this program, I would do the ideal combo boxes first, send that out, see where we fit, and then where there are gaps, then we fill them in a little more specifically with specific produce, specific dairy, something like that. And that makes sense, especially if you have people at the ready, like they said the BOA program was going to be, is that companies get pre-approval for this round, and then USDA is going to see how it looks and then say, okay, starting Monday, you deliver 1 million boxes in the greater Seattle area because we're short there.
Okay. The other thing I saw.
That's the way they inferred that they were going to be more flexible for this next round.
Yeah, and the other thing I saw was something that I heard a lot about, kind of back and forth chatter, is that they did not award anything to broadline distributors. I mean, Gordon Food Service was the closest to a broadliner in the first round of awards. And in this round, we don't see amounts, but we do see that Cisco got awards for every single region. And it makes sense in the big scheme of things. Who can put together a box of food better than a broadline distributor that already has everything there and already has the facilities, already has pretty much the boxes? I mean, they don't even have to buy boxes for this. It made sense, but it's a complete 180 from the attitude that we got from the beginning of the program.
It is, it's a total change. And they explained from the very beginning that the idea was to not only help consumers who needed food, but also to help American farmers and the middle market who lost their customer base when the food service industry shut down. So it could be that the food service industry is at least reaching an equilibrium. The smaller wholesalers are able to adjust, and maybe the big guys are saying, like Cisco, hey, food service is still down and we're
Yeah.
losing a lot of money and we have a lot of infrastructure and we could fulfill these way better than not only the creative dates that were a huge bust, but even smaller middle market guys who are doing a very good job at it, just they can't compete with Cisco's uh, volume.
Yeah.
And
It, it,
so, and Cisco probably has lobbyists too.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they find. And the other thing too is that immediately when we saw this ridiculous spike in retail demand, a lot of the big broadliners pivoted to go work with to go work with Kroger and CNS Wholesale. We saw U.S. Food Service and Cisco and a couple of other bigger ones pick up retail business. I'm sure that most retailers have figured it out. They got toilet paper. They're doing okay. And they don't need a lot of that help anymore. So I bet you that the big broadliners lost some of that retail business as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I have no doubt.
The other news that we had is, we are seeing a lot of just heartbreaking footage coming from California, specifically the river fire in Salinas. Marcon sent over another update, and the video from the field that they're sending through also is just pretty dramatic, but it's also showing that things may be cooling off a little bit.
Yeah, it was mostly a good news report. The fires are starting to subside. The crops have not been damaged very much, and the workers, the harvesting has gotten pretty much back to normal. And really, it started off. Of course, the fires are devastating to people and their lives, but probably worse was the week before where they had a heat wave. That really damaged product. And now they sent us pictures. There's ash in the leaves, and they can do their best to wash it off, but consumers will just have to be extra vigilant on washing their produce. And ash is not, I mean, there's no chemicals or pathogens or any worse than dirt. I mean, it's just wash it off and everything's fine.
Yeah.
One thing that we do have to keep in mind, that heat wave attacked some of the younger plants, and that's going to show up in the market in a couple months. And there's a very big possibility at the end of the season, you're going to see lower supplies and lower quality.
We already heard, back in the beginning of the pandemic, when we saw the food service business tank, we did see a lot of the plot growers, the potatoes, lettuce, onions, tomatoes, a lot of chatter about cutting back plantings, and that there would be possibly some shortages and some tight markets going into the fall. And this isn't going to help that situation. So it's going to be a weird transition to Yuma for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And supply and demand, if there are certain commodities that have seen some oversupply, that's the way you adjust.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that we saw this week was actually kind of a shocker for me this morning when I saw the news that Amazon finally opened its Amazon Fresh grocery store. I got a quick look at how it's working. They had the location ready to go for a while now, but they had decided to just do grocery pickup there during the pandemic, which made sense to really ramp that up. And so now they decided to, in Woodland Hills, California, which is in the Los Angeles area, they opened it up to just a limited assortment of people to avoid that opening rush, which is what, probably a smart idea, because I know the lines were wrapped around the corner to go to Amazon Go. And then also when Whole Foods 365 opened, there was huge lines, even when I went almost, 3 or 4 months later when it first opened. So to see that this store is finally open, we got a glimpse of what they're doing in there, and I think it's fascinating.
It looked like some cool ideas for sure, and at least a better representation for what it means for produce than the Amazon Go store that we first saw, which was some weird produce items and pack sizes and
zoodles at a convenience store. Why not? Some of the things I saw in just the little snippets that they put out that were produce specific, I thought was interesting, is that they are touting that their organic produce is sourced by 365 by Whole Foods Market. I really think it's smart to say, hey, our produce is picked by these produce experts, because people equate Whole Foods with high quality. The other thing is they've got 2 new house brands, Curve and Fresh, I believe. I'm not sure what those are for, but they do have prepared foods that they are talking about. They're talking about low prices as well. And earlier this week, I kind of passed on a rumor story because I was like, oh, come on, this is the New York Post. It was Whole Foods is going to go cashierless with some of this Amazon Go technology. And I'm like, yeah, nah. I mean, I've seen Amazon Go. The entire ceiling is cameras. I cannot imagine the upfront cost of doing that in a traditional 40,000 square foot store. However, Amazon Fresh has this new dash cart thing, which is very similar to the idea of Amazon Go, which is where you go in, it has, you know, robot eyes basically to look at what you're putting in your cart, and then you just go through a designated lane and you don't have to go through the cashier process. I could see that going into Whole Foods before I could see cameras in the whole ceiling.
Yeah, I agree. My experience is mostly putting a quarter into the cart, and getting the cart. And then when you're done with your cart, you put it back in and you get your quarter back.
Yes, you know, and as someone who frequently shops in Europe, as often as I can, I do love the either euro or quarter or whatever to go into a cart, because I also live in South Central Texas, where it seems to be a cultural thing to leave your cart in the middle of nowhere. People who live in the valley know what I'm talking about. It is an epidemic of carts in the middle of parking lots by the end of the day. So I love the idea of having the Aldi model. And I was really disappointed when I went to Lidl here in the US, and they have the carts that are meant to have that little quarter thing, and they don't have the technology in there. So they passed on that. And consequently, there are carts all over Lidl parking lots.
I don't know that I really call that technology exactly.
It's technology. Oh, the other thing is, the other news that we had this week is that Lidl was going to grow by 50% in the next year. I've seen back and forth on LinkedIn about it from grocery analysts, and some say it's a great idea, and some are saying it's going to be a fresh and easy flop. But so far, it seems like Lidl's got a pretty strong following.
They've already had a better start than Fresh and Easy. So that, I mean, they could have a slower flame out, but Fresh and Easy was gone by now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, Fresh and Easy made it 2 years.
They didn't explain what they were. And Lidl has done a good job.
I think so.
Also, people have a frame of mind with Aldi that, okay, we get the concept, so now it's a slightly different. And it's always easier to build on something that you're already familiar with.
Yeah, and I think it's been smart because Aldi has long been, until recently when they picked up some Earth Fare and Fresh and Lucky's stores in Florida, Aldi has always been an organic growth store. They didn't acquire. Lidl, on the other hand, bought a bunch of stores in Long Island and really just pushed into the market a little faster than Aldi has. But Aldi is still way on track. So that's another discussion for another time. But to see that Lidl has announced, and they also published a list of the 50 stores that they plan to open by the end of next year. You can take a look at that at producebluebook.com.
There's a map.
There's a map. I love making maps. You can also sign up for the Produce Reporter newsletter on producebluebook.com, because that's it for the Produce Reporter Week in Review.
See you next time.
See ya.